problem. He's going to press it hard. Watch him on the track right there.
Michael Andretti has led every one of the 5 IndyCar races that have been run so far this year. He hasn't won any of them, but you can see right now he's stalking the leader and just really where he wants to be, I would say, in the race.
Arie Luyendyk leads it. There he is, the bright yellow and red 40 car. Michael Andretti is second. Scott Goodyear is sitting in third. Michael closed in for a second there. Looked like he may have had Arie. In fourth place is Scott Creighton. Jack Villeneuve is in fifth. Mauricio Gugelmin sixth. Paul Tracy seventh. Jimmy Vasser is in eighth. Scott Pruitt ninth. And Andre Ribeiro runs in 10th.
At least on paper, Michael has a very reliable car. A Lola chassis, a Ford engine, not the hot Ford engine that they experimented with earlier in the season that had a little more horsepower, a more conservative unit that is very well proven. So he should have a car that can go the 500 miles.
So you got to remember now, these Menard Buick engines have been detuned in order to go 500 miles. This is not the qualifying trim that we saw these guys run in. Keep remembering this as the day goes on, but they all have also a racing gear and a cruise gear. One to make fuel mileage, one to make the engine go easier, and the other one to make them go fast. Right now, they can see the clouds. Look at the sky right there. They shouldn't be running their race gears.
And already the leaders start to overhaul slower cars. This may be a chance for Michael. It is as they come past Stefan Johansson. Michael passes the leader. There's Herta just ahead of Arie Luyendyk, who's now back in second place.
Michael, who has led more laps than almost the whole rest of the field put together, is now back in the lead of the Indy 500 and has led all 6 of the IndyCar races held this year.
He planned that and used the traffic to get it done. That shows you real experience.
6th time that Michael has led. The battle now will develop for second place. Lyn St. James was one of those in that accident. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
And Paul, fortunately, she's walked out of the hospital. Lyn, what happened out there?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I saw that there was an incident up ahead, and I just tried to find a hole. I thought I had found one. I had to go high, but I got hit and then got into the wall, and so that I was on my own missile. But it seems strange because the incident was so far ahead that there should have been enough room for people to get through, but everybody was, I guess, still bunched up, so it's just very unfortunate. It's too short, you know, and these things really shouldn't happen, but unfortunately they did, and I can't bring much light to it. I'd like to see a replay myself just to get a better understanding.
A tough month, and it all comes up too short for Lyn St. James.
The leaders overhauling the back of the field now. Let's go back and take a look at Michael Andretti's great move that got him into the lead of the race. We'll look at it from on board his in-car.
Now, there's been talk of throttle response problems with the Menards, and you see, Arie had to slow up there for Stefan Johansson, and Michael had it perfectly timed, and Arie couldn't get back up to speed and fast in time to block Michael.
Same shot from Arie Luyendyk's car, and boy, he almost got pinched off there, but there you see the thoroughbred versus the production-based engine. That thoroughbred engine, the Ford Cosworth and Michael's car, will wind up a little faster when necessary.
I think you may find the Menards have trouble in traffic.
What they did right there is he used a double draft. When 2 cars get side by side, it's just like a vacuum cleaner, and that's how Michael got by those guys.
So 19 laps are complete in the Indianapolis 500 with Michael Andretti taking the lead over Arie Luyendyk and Scott Goodyear. We'll return with more of the 500 after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Wide World of Sports.
Back in Indianapolis, Jack Villeneuve currently runs in 5th place. Good battle developing behind him between Gugelmin, Tracy, Vasser, Pruitt, Ribeiro, and Teo Fabi. All of these battling for 5th place, beginning with that red, white, and blue car of Mauricio Gugelmin. Further update now from the Track Medical Center. Here's Jerry Punch.
And Dr. Henry Bach has walked out to speak with us. Henry, what's the status of the 4 drivers you've checked out?
Lyn St. James, Carlos Guerrero, and Eddie Cheever have been released in good condition, and they're back out of the hospital. Stan Fox has a closed head injury. He's on his way to Methodist Hospital. We'll probably have some information on him in about a half an hour, 45 minutes.
So, Henry, we'll come back and try to get an update on Stan Fox at that time.
Thank you, Jerry.
Paul?
All right, there's the official word from the medical director at the Speedway, Dr. Henry Bach. Scott Goodyear made a good move on Arie Luyendyk for second.
As we watch this exciting battle, the man to look for is Paul Tracy, 3rd from the left, I believe, in this shot. And he has moved up from 16th on the grid to 7th. He is moving fast. Tracy, the story there, of course, is that he's mistake-prone. He's one of the most brilliant drivers in the field, but he's been known to get into tangles with other cars. You see him on the left of the screen right there. Paul Tracy, center of the screen right there, the great Canadian driver. If he can get through the first 100 laps or so of this race in good shape, he may very well have a big day here at the Speedway.
You see the running order at the conclusion of 20 laps. You're on board now with Arie Luyendyk. He runs in third place. He was passed by Scott Goodyear, who moved up into second place. And there is Goodyear and DeFerrin's car being pushed back to the garage area. I guess they've decided no go on this, because if they put it in the garage area, it cannot come back out. And of course, the key here is to have that car out of the way when the pit stops begin, which should be very, very shortly. Jack Arute, isn't that correct?
Well, Paul, it should be as early as maybe 3 laps from now. Arie Luyendyk should be the first of the leaders to come in. And you know, Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company brought a second compound tire to Indy for Carburation Day. It's a little bit softer, and many of the teams are planning to switch to it somewhere during the course of the race. But because of the caution that came out early, many of them are electing not to do it this time. You have to qualify. The tire that you qualified on, you have to start the race with. But you see these tires here in Arie Luyendyk's pit that are covered up? Those are the softer Goodyears. Look for them possibly in the 3rd stop of the race. Right now, Luyendyk's going to change back to the old Goodyears, the style that he qualified on.
It's nice to be able to have 2 different tires like that. One of the things bothering the drivers right now, guys, is the wind. It's gusty at times, goes away at times. The drivers have got to be a little bit spooked, because one time they go at the end of the straightaway into one of the sharp turns, and they've got a big wind. The next time it's really still. They probably think their cars are giving a problem.
Wind is blowing from the south, so it's a headwind up the main straight.
As Arie Luyendyk has reported, heads for the pits. And this will be his first stop of the day. He comes off of 3rd place to the pits, and Jack Arute's right there.
First stop is always the most difficult. You have to get acquainted coming down out of 240 miles an hour and hit the marks precisely. Luyendyk does. The onboard air jacks go up. He passes off on the water. He's right now just going to take on tires, a full load of methanol fuel, and we look for no major adjustments. Now, yes, they are putting 3 turns of front wing on both sides on Arie Luyendyk's car. He is off and away. Almost stalls the car and having trouble getting back up to speed. They're still pushing, and he's killed the engine.
That's a costly thing. Boy, that's a big problem. Gonna hurt Arie really bad.
And it almost got in the way of Scott Brayton. His teammate is electing to come in now, too. So while one Menard team begins to work on Arie Luyendyk, Scott Brayton looks for his pit stop area as well. They get the jack in. They're having trouble getting the onboard starter connected. They do now as it begins to fire. Now Scott Brayton goes to work. Luyendyk goes by, but the car is still misfiring. Now, according to Team Menard, they're going to make a wing adjustment as well on Scott Brayton. They do make a rear wing adjustment on Scott Brayton's car. And he is off and away, but again, a very rough-sounding motor. As they begin to come up through the gears, gentlemen.
Remember that this team runs only this one race per year. They have a huge budget, over $6.5 million devoted to this one race. But sometimes you might have teething problems because you've just made the first pit stop of the year that you might not have if you ran all the races.
Let's also keep in mind that the 2 Menards were the first into the pits for fuel. That means that they may not be getting the mileage the other guys are. It's a very important thing to the whole race.
Bobby, that indeed is one thing we should remember, and more importantly, who can forget the problems they had coming back out of the pits? In both cases, in Luyendyk's case, he stalled the car, but Brayton was none better in terms of riding the clutch and coming back up through the gears. That could spell problems in a long race where you got to come in and out of here 7 to 8 times.
Well, Jack, that valve train, I understand, is very sensitive, so you have to be careful not to over-rev it, too, coming out of the pits. Here we are with Michael Andretti,
the leader of the race. As the leaders flashed by last time, it was Michael leading, followed by Scott Goodyear and Jack Villeneuve. Those 3 have not stopped. Gugelmin, Vassar, Tracy, Rivero, Pruitt, Bobby, Roberto Guerrero, Matsushita, Salazar, Rahal, Zampedri, and Bosell have all stopped as we are watching the fight for first and second. And Goodyear is now beginning to close in.
And there was Robbie Gordon they just went by, so he's still not up to speed.
Both of them due for the pits anytime now. That's Robbie Gordon. You see him third in the order. The true third in the race is Jack Villeneuve. He sits back just a bit.
Remember, we ride with Scott Goodyear here. He has only won 2 IndyCar races. They were both 500-milers.
And as we go along, Sam and Paul, and see the sky up there, we see that the clouds are breaking a little bit. There's Michael coming in the pits right now.
So as Michael heads for the pits, Scott Goodyear stays out and will assume the lead. So the Honda engine, at least now we know, is capable of going the farthest, at least based on the first stop. The Menard stop first. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
We wait with the crew anxiously. Here's the nose of the car. Watch for a slight wing change. They're going to go up a half turn, we're told, on the front. They're staying with the primary Goodyear tire. No change to the optional compound. There's the change at the front of the nose. Everything looks routine. Off the jacks, running about 15.5 seconds on our clock.
And Gary, what that means, a half a turn up on the front wings, 15.110 seconds. But what it means is the front end's going to be a little tighter on the ground. It means it's going to turn a little better.
So the leader of the race makes his stop, and Scott Goodyear assumes the lead. Goodyear has now gone 4 laps beyond Michael Andretti, and he is due for his stop on the next lap. So Scott Goodyear out in front. This could very definitely be a factor in this race, is how these different engines handle their fuel economy. As Goodyear comes around Robbie Gordon, that's not a pass for position. Gordon, remember, had trouble at the opening of the race and has continued to struggle since then. So Scott Goodyear, we watch for the turn down onto pit road.
Goodyear left the team that he was with last year, Bernstein's team. You see him turning down here. He was without a ride at the beginning of this season, but when the Tasman team got to, with Steve Horn putting this team together, he got his old mechanic with him, Joe Flynn, and they've had terrific confidence over this month here.
Scott Goodyear rolls in from the lead. Here's Jack.
Paul, Scott Goodyear has certainly cast the gauntlet down in terms of fuel mileage with his Honda and Firestone shot entry. Now, Firestone has 2 options of tires as well, but they are electing to stay with the same compound that they qualified on. Goodyear now on board in the cockpit, resetting the fuel metering device to tell them how many miles and how many gallons are left on board. They cleaned some debris out of the left front radiator area. A very uneventful pit stop, and he is off and away.
Yeah, Jack noticed Steve Horn made no adjustments to that car. Now, that's something else we want to watch as the race goes on.
So Jack Villeneuve, French-Canadian, picks up the lead of the race. He made his stop on lap 35. So Villeneuve now in front of the race as he moves up from his position past the front row. Villeneuve is at the top as 34 laps are now complete in the Indianapolis 500-mile race. We'll be back with more of our coverage from Indy.
You want to know how? 9th running of the Indianapolis 500 on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Brought to you by Ice Brewed Ice House. Ice brewed so there's never any watered down taste. Valvoline, the #1 choice of America's top mechanics. Splitfire, the patented performance spark plug. It only costs more until you use it. And Chevrolet. One car company has won more races in the history of NASCAR, genuine Chevrolet.